So, when do you have your best ideas? Your best ideas for your content and your creativity in general. Curious to know what that is for you because for me, it's usually when I'm having any physical activity, such as walking. And it's amazing how a simple meditative walk can create all of these good ideas in your mind, right? And so, specifically, I like walking either in the beginning of the day, the after, actually, anytime. But specifically, yesterday evening, I was out for a walk, and then this brilliant idea just came up. This brilliant idea about a client, and really just looking back at her transformation and the work that we had done for actually a very long time. And, she had messaged me a few months ago, updating me how she was doing. And we had actually worked together back in December 2020. And, back then her life has tremendously changed. I mean, she messaged me not too long after working together, but this time around, a good year and a half after working together, she is having a life that is completely just mind-blowing, which, it was one of those things that I didn't really realize the impact of it until yesterday during that meditative walk, because I like to talk about how I get my clients fast results and long-term results too. And this was one of the things that was actually proof that it didn't really click when I received this testimonial, but it clicked now. And so we talk about it, we celebrate it, right? And so this is going to be a really, really powerful case study as to the power of the real deep subconscious work and healing modality that I got to do with this client, as well as a case study of how putting ourselves first is the key to having a fulfilling life, even though sometimes putting ourselves first may seem counterintuitive and is very uncomfortable, and we feel a lot of resentment putting ourselves first. But this case study is proof that amazing things can happen in our lives once we decide that we are worthy of giving ourselves the attention that we actually deserve. So let's rewind back to December 2020. So met this client end of 2020, and December 2020 specifically, we had worked together. And interestingly, she actually came to me because she wanted to work on weight loss. And that was pretty interesting because back then I was figuring out what my niche was, and weight loss was one of those things. So worked with her, but really, as we know, with deep subconscious work, it's not the weight that is the problem. It is something deeper. When we do work like this, it's not just a superficial weight that's the problem. That is a symptom. And the root cause of that symptom was her relationship with with the father of her son, her baby daddy. And so it was really interesting because a lot of the things that came up that really prevented her from losing the weight was this relationship. And so she had a very complex relationship with, the father of her son. But she never really felt valued when she was with him. She didn't feel seen or appreciated by him. And it was one of those instances where when they would interact, she wouldn't receive the attention and the love that she craved for. And so it was very stressful for her. She felt rejected all the time. And she actually interestingly said, while we were talking about it, that how she was back then was very damaging. And she actually, I'm just kind of reading back on what she wrote, but it's like she was like, well, our previous interactions, I would just get so anxious, and I would actually not decide not to have my son see his dad because of how I felt when I was with him, which was very anxious. Anxiety would be triggered, her energy would be so drained, and she's an empath, right? So her energy is drained, and it would be she described it very interestingly. She felt like she was a young kid. Like she felt that her voice couldn't be heard, right? Like whenever she talked to this partner, that her voice just couldn't be heard, that it was just like silent all the time. And she felt like a little kid who didn't have a voice, which is like such a powerfully sad feeling, right? And she felt not enough, and she felt, really rejected by this man in her life, that was supposed to be part of her family. And so she really wanted to work on that. And long story short, that's exactly what we did. We worked on that relationship and particularly how she felt. And we really focused on her self-worth, because that was really lacking. She didn't feel worthy. Her self-esteem was down. Her self-confidence was down. And so that session was really all about building herself up so that she was able to put her needs first. And, that feeling of rejection that she had was all about like her perception of her within the relationship. So interestingly, she actually said that, she was punishing herself. She was punishing herself because whenever she was with this partner, she would just feel rejected, right? She would just feel rejected and be like, oh, when I'm with this partner, I feel rejected. But it was her perception, right? Does that make sense? To me, it makes sense, because she was like, I felt like crap all the time because I'm being rejected by him, but I am allowing myself to be rejected by him. And, it was very damaging to her, because at the end of the day, she said something very, very powerful. Like when we talked recently, a few months ago, she was like, back then, it wasn't that he was rejecting me. I was rejecting me for being still with him. And like that realization is just so powerful. And she realized this during the work that we did. And so when we worked together back in 2020, like I said, we really just built up her own self-esteem, so that she could start putting herself first. And then 3 weeks after, she actually posted a wonderful testimonial in my business page. And I'm going to drop that in the comments below, but the screenshot of that, because I still have it. It's a really, really powerful thing. But in that testimonial, she said, she would have the most piercing pain and energy draining after that interaction with her ex-partner. And, and within the session, she felt the freedom by being unaffected with the feelings. So the main thing that we worked on was that her ability to no longer feel rejected while she was with him. And because she no longer experienced these feelings, these intense feelings of rejection, of feeling small, of knowing that she didn't have a voice, and that anxiety was reduced, which is exactly what we do in subconscious reprogramming healing work. All of that kind of faded away, and the difference that it made in just 3 weeks in her life had been incredible. She started hanging out with him again without being affected by his presence, by his energy, with his energy. So she was able to hang out with her and her son and the son's dad all the time. Like they were actually a happy family together. And I think this was her last sentence in that testimonial, we may not have a relationship, but I have a beautiful family for my son. Like, to me, that just like is touching. Like I feel that in my solar plexus. Like I feel the power of that, right? It was just like, yes, we may not have a relationship with this someone, but my son is more important. Growing up as a family is more important. So she put herself first and kind of swallowed that tough pill to swallow of like, this is me doing this to me. This is me punishing me. I am making myself suffer. And so she invested in the help to help her no longer suffer by no longer having that emotional attachment to that father. And like that is just a beautiful thing. Like we may not have a relationship, but I have a beautiful relationship with her son. And it was kind of like one of those things where, a client just kind of lives their life happily. And of course we follow each other on social media. So she wrote this testimonial January of 2021. And so a few months ago, back in end of April, we just started catching up again. And she messaged me on Instagram and it was like, this is, her words, like quoted, "You helped me make huge gains about a year and a half ago surrounding my ex/baby daddy. And I healed so much. which is like obviously amazing that a year and a half later, she's still having these amazing effects. But listen to this. This is fucking crazy, right? So January 2021, they're definitely not together. That ex was out of state, but they kind of just met as a family once in a while, and that's how she liked it. So they were not together. Okay. So then she messaged me at the end of April this year, 2022, and she said, this is what she said. Like when I read this, I was like mind blown. Like my mind was blown. So she said, we ended up becoming best friends and very recently got back together. Like, that's crazy. Like, that is just fucking crazy to me that in a year and a half, they got back together after a year and a half. Since a year and a half ago, her relationship with him was like, it was very consuming to her. Like, she was mentally, physically, and emotionally exhausted by that relationship. She healed herself. She put herself first. She worked on building her self-esteem, building up her independence, believing in herself more. She trusted herself more. She really just got true to what her desires were and became unapologetic with going after what she wanted. She wanted the career. She's starting her business, and she's raising her son extremely well. Her son is like freaking amazing. She prioritized herself first, and within that, yes, they needed to separate for a period of amount of time, but because she had worked on herself, because that emotional attachment of resentment and rejection was no longer present and shifted more into of an acceptance, she formed a friendly relationship with this partner that became her best friend, and now they're back together. Like, to me, that is mind-blowing. And I really didn't sometimes things don't click until like one point. Well, like yesterday when I was walking and I was like, holy shit, this woman's result is like crazy. How did I not see this and appreciate it as much as I did when I first heard it? Because this was a few months ago, but it's never too late. And there's a reason for this, that it's just starting to click for me now. And I just wanted to really share that with you and really hone in the point of, yes, society is going to make us feel bad and is going to make us think that we are selfish for putting ourselves first. But we can't pour from an empty cup. And so just like what this woman did, she poured her own cup first. She filled up her self-esteem cup, so it goes all the way up, and she's able to, manifest amazing things in her career, and then eventually fix this relationship that had been broken for several years. And now she's incredibly happy. And so sometimes in life we need to do things, we need to let go first. And this is what she did. She had to let go of that old relationship first and kind of had to rebuild herself up from scratch in order to really attract what she truly desired. And it was funny because when we caught up a few months ago, she was like, Fritz, like, when we had that session together, I had this feeling that me and him were going to end up together. Like, but it didn't make sense because I just felt like shit whenever I was with him. But I knew, like, she had a vision that it was going to be them, their small little family of her, this partner, and their son. But it didn't make sense at that time. And now with time, I put myself first. I've done a lot of work and self-care and self-prioritization and putting myself first type work, that now it's starting to come true. And so that is, a beautiful thing. We really have to let go first and really build ourselves up and know who we are truly inside first to be able to attract the right person for us. And so I just wanted to share this with you because, like, this is an amazing story. This is an amazing story that, it did take a year and a half to manifest, but just honing in the point that every type of work that we do in ourselves does pay off, because whatever is happening to us today was a result of what we did months and years ago. And whatever we're doing now is going to be manifested in 3 months from now, tomorrow, a year from now. So keep on working on you, keep going, boo, and fuck those people who say that putting ourselves first is selfish, because you can't pour from an empty cup. We have to put our own oxygen mask on first. And sometimes we need to be reminded of that. And so this is my reminder for you today. I hope that this was helpful and inspiring. And, we need more of these stories, right? So I wanted to share this with you. I hope you have an amazing day, and let me know what you thought about this story, because this story is pretty bomb, right? Let me know what you thought of this story. I will be posting that testimonial, a 3-week testimonial, below in the comments, and also her follow-up message from Instagram a few months ago. So that's it for today. Keep going, boo. Connect with me. I'd love to hear about your thoughts about relationships and all of these things, because this is my new passion now, and I would love to help you with that, because our relationships greatly affect our business, our ability to become leaders, and our ability to become fulfilled. So let me know what your thoughts are, and I'll see you soon.